Alrighty, everybody, welcome in. My name is Joe, and we're gonna play some chess. So my opponent's leading off with e4, and I'm just gonna follow the same exact opening that we talked about. And now we're into the Ruy Lopez. We're gonna go for, I like this early pawn push. My opponent's gonna retreat, and now I'm gonna go ahead and get my knight involved. This is how I like to play the Ruy Lopez. I just find that it fits my style. If my opponent decides to go for the exchange, right? So let's say that my opponent at this point in time decided to go for the exchange. We capture away from the center to open up our queen in case my opponent wants to try to grab a pawn. I don't immediately start pushing that bishop back just because there's no real need to right now. There's plenty of options to do that later. All right, so my opponent has defended this central pawn. Everything's kosher. I need to defend my central pawn because at any point in time my opponent could grab. Then now because he's defended this pawn, now this queen up is not going to work. So I need to figure out how to... I guess now would be a good time to push this bishop back so that it can't do a last minute sneak and grab. Because I really don't want to give that up, but I don't want to stick my bishop here. I could stick my bishop here, but that doesn't really do anything. All right, let's go for it. Not my favorite way to play this, but we'll give it a shot. Now that that has been taken care of, actually, I kind of want to just stick my bishop here on e2, or e7, excuse me. I kind of just want to stick it here. Why? I don't know. Like, there's a lot that sometimes you have to hope that you're playing the right moves. Sometimes I remember why to play certain things, but other times I don't. Okay, my opponent has taken away that square. What is the goal of that move? I guess to give him a hidey hole here, maybe get the queen involved. I'm assuming they're going to castle. I hate doing that because that blocks in my own bishop. All right, let's go this way. Let's go this way. Let's get the knight out this, or the bishop out this way. I'm sure I'm missing something, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm making good moves, right? Right now we just want to make good moves. Yeah, there's the attack. But now we can castle. And I could move this knight still with an attack, or maybe not there. I could move this knight and get an attack on this if I needed to. It's defended, but now it's attacked. Captures, 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 capture. All right, let me calculate this. All right, let's see here. This is where I'm bad at, is that my memory's not good. So bishop, knight, knight, bishop. I have to take back, and then my opponent still has this. Oh God, how many is that? Somebody do some math here. One for him, 3 for him, 3 for me. 3 for him, 3 for me. That's 6 each. 3 and then 3, and then I can take back. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay. Now, if he takes here, I can still take here. And this is still defended. Okay. I'm happy with that. That took a little bit, but we got there in the end, didn't we? Just scanning to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Now, if my opponent were to castle right now, it becomes checkmate. So they don't want to do that. Yeah. I was debating on trying to grab this, but then I'm pinned my bishop to my queen, and I don't want to do that. my opponent can't castle right now, and so I want to take advantage of that fact somehow. No, that doesn't work. Let's just continue developing. So my opponent could move a knight, So my opponent is asking me if I want to trade queens. I don't have to trade queens just yet. But I will. One. So I'm okay there. 2 and 2. I'm okay there. Got to keep doing my maths here. This is tight, guys, and I'm sorry that I got really quiet there for a second, but it's brain power. I don't have a lot of it, so I'm not blessed with a lot of gifts in that regard. So, you know, I can't talk and think at the same time. All right, so my opponent has a ton of time left. I still have plenty of time left, too. I'm not in any rush right now. My opponent does have a time advantage, so that's something for them to think about. But scanning the board, I'm just trying to look to see what could happen here. There's not any real great discoveries, right? Like if I were to grab this pawn, it comes with a free check. There's not really anything I can do after that fact. I might see if I can shift my bishop around somewhere. What else could we do? Get the other rook involved somewhere. Now, if my opponent doesn't take this, then there definitely are still no good discoveries. My opponent's rooks are on dark squares. I have a light square bishop. So it's possible my opponent will consolidate down, and then we just have a generic endgame. Very good. Okay, so from here, I want to keep this bishop somehow. The question is, what do I want to do with it? So I'm going to push my central pawn here. Am I? Am I going to do that? Maybe I am. I'm not sure. My opponent doesn't have a bishop, so I don't really need to worry about square colors so much. When the knight starts jumping, then I will worry a little bit more. All right, do I want to consolidate that, yes or no? Not right now. I'll let my opponent do it. Because if he consolidates, then I can take, number one, with tempo, I mean, with a time advantage, because pre-moving this means I'll get those 5 seconds back. And, you know, it'd be nice to have that 5 seconds back on the clock. Otherwise, if my opponent trades, the other reason I want to do it is because it gives me control of the E file. So if my opponent trades, I now have the E file available to me to use. I'd like to get this bishop doing something now, but I think now we've got Pretty good structure. I'm only up a pawn, so this is not a winning endgame by any stretch of the imagination. The only advantage I have right now is that I'm capturing away here, because if I'd captured towards, if I'd captured this way, then this pawn is still loose. So yes, I give my opponent this outside file, but I'm able to hold on to here. This is defended, so I don't have any worries about that right now. I still have that defended, but man, I really want to get this bishop on this diagonal. I am giving my opponent access to this and this, so I have to be careful my opponent sticking a piece here. So this structure is going to fall apart. Because even if I were to stick, that's good. Even if I were to stick my rook here, this knight jumping down immediately attacks it. So I'm trying to get some influence along this back row. That's not what I wanted. All right. We'll bring her home. Yeah, so this is the kind of endgames that I'm not good at. All right, 1 pawn difference. I don't know enough about how to gain these types of advantages. So if I push here, he drops the knight there, and then I push over. I think that's what I can do. Here, and he comes to here, and then I push over, and then he jumps to here with check, or here. So I'm okay. Ah, clever girl, clever girl, clever girl. Okay, so we have to do this. So my bishop might become kind of weak if I'm not careful. All my stuff being on light squares means I've blocked myself off. I need to start shifting stuff to dark squares to give myself room, but my opponent has handled almost all of this too well. Okay, he has a double attack on that now. Yep. I just don't know enough endgame processes. So he's got a double attack, so I'm losing this pawn. If he takes with the rook, I'll exchange. If he takes with the knight, I have to leave it. Yeah, so this maybe was an issue with my pawns on light squares. All right. I don't know, friends. I don't know how to play this endgame. So I'm going to keep trying to just maneuver little by little. I drop here. Yeah, I think that my opponent's rook is just more active than mine, and my bishop has just not been a good piece. So I think in this particular endgame, my opponent has an advantage with the knight over my bishop. My bishop is basically out of the game. And I can't figure out how to get it back in the game. I think that might be checkmate. Wow. All right. So, yep. I don't know how to get out of these. Yeah, checkmate. Yeah, you can see the advantage here at the end game was just overwhelming on white side. This is where I need more practice. This is where I need more practice in these kind of end games. Because look, white has, look at this, a 3-point advantage. Okay, right here. Here's the first time, or the last time that we were even. The engine wants me to bring the rook over, because what happens here? Oh, I guess I get access to this, right. Oh no, the king can defend. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it right away. That's the problem with these end games, y'all. I don't see them. I can't picture the board as a whole too well in my mind's eye. So this was a bad move on my part. And my opponent gave me every opportunity to stop screwing it up, and I just couldn't. My opponent played this extremely well. Hats off to my opponent for knowing their end games. Yeah, I mean, it just goes from bad to worse from here on out, and then coming up the board was not the solution. Look at this. Look at this advantage my opponent has. Wow. Yep. Oh well. Oh well. That's how she goes sometimes. All right, guys. Let's take a quick look at the beginning of the game, because we felt pretty good, right? Ruy Lopez, the Morphe defense, push our opponent back, jump up with our knight. Then my opponent brings in the pawn in, and so now we need this to be defended. And yeah, I pushed the bishop back, but I guess I could have gone with my original plan. But then this is what I was worried about. This is defend. Oh, because the bishop's already here. Look at that. That's the thing that I wasn't seeing. Is because since the bishop's already here, this becomes a much bigger threat. If your opponent drops back, that becomes checkmate. Aha. Interesting. Okay, so that's a lesson that I can learn, is that even if your opponent defends this square, having the bishop here on c5 for the Ruy Lopez, if they do decide to exchange, you're not giving up a pawn. Didn't notice that. All right, so back up. All right, so how did the game develop? I pushed a pawn, my opponent retreated, and then I played it safe with my bishop to e7. Yeah, the engine wants me to push this pawn, but I hate doing that because I always feel like I'm blocking myself in. And then I'm getting blocked in anyway. Ooh, wow. So I calculated this correctly. I'm real happy. Man, I calculated that correctly. I'm real happy with how that went. I had a 6-point advantage at this point in time, and I couldn't figure it out. Man, that's a huge swing, isn't it? Wow, what a swing, guys. What a swing. I had a huge advantage, and I just could not solve it. Yeah, trading was bad. Yeah, and then our advantage. And this was a mistake on my part. This right here, you could see that as soon as I pushed this pawn to the light square, I should have shifted my pawns to dark squares to give me more of range of my light square bishop, because I ended up, I mean, yes, my light square bishop could be used to defend these pawns, but in reality, no, because the attack is going to come from behind, and my bishop's not being able to defend both backwards pawns. So yeah, I think I should have left these pawns alone. Maybe pushed up the dark squares. I don't know, but we saw how this developed, that I ended up, my poor bishop was trapped and I never got anywhere. And even right here, I have an advantage. Yeah, and then this is exactly what I said. Basically, I don't know how to play this endgame with only one pawn up, and I don't know how to play the endgame. But I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna study this a little bit more and see if I can figure out. I might go back to here. This is what I'm gonna do in my free time. I'm gonna play some moves like this. Say, okay, let's put this guy on a dark square. Trade. Whatever he's gonna do. He went there. And put this guy in a dark square. Trade. Actually, no, he went there, and then I pushed, and then trade, and then he did something. And then I can go to a dark square. That's still defended. So I'll keep playing with different lines, and I'll look for ways that I can maybe get maybe if moving my pawns to dark squares earlier, since I have this light square bishop, maybe even way back here where we traded off dark square bishop, maybe right from here, right? Start putting things on dark squares, right? Why not maybe something like this? Or maybe something like this. You know, I don't know, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna play with this and see if maybe I can find a way, find if there's alternatives, and see if maybe I can change my line of thinking, change the way I look at squares, colors, weaknesses, strengths, and figure out, you know, in that position, would it have been better to have my pawns on dark squares, or was that not an issue at all? And realistically, what it was is I should have tried to push to trade off rooks sooner, or maybe I should have, in this case, obviously kept the queens on the board. Keeping the queens on the board was, I mean, a huge advantage for me, and I did not know how to take advantage of that. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at some of these lines with the queen on the boards and see if maybe in this case, where my opponent's king is being chased around. I mean, realistically, if the opponent's king is in the center of the board, I want my queen on there. I want my queen harassing that king as much as possible. The king is not safe, and the queen is a great tool for harassing. So maybe that's the mindset I need to look at is, you know, the king is in the center of the board. There's no castling happening, so go ahead and keep the queens. It's more advantageous for my opponent to remove the queens from the board because their king is stuck in the center. I don't know. I just don't know. But anyway, this was a fun game, guys. Even though I lost, hey, I had fun. You know, whatever. It happens. We played good chess, and we don't know our endgames too well. Oh well. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. I'm honestly, this game, the positive takeaway is my calculations here. Being able to calculate that this series of captures was correct and was indeed okay, and that even the engine agrees with me that the best move for my opponents, I was able to calculate all of them, and I'm happy that I was able to do that, not just because it put me in an advantage, but because I had the mental acuity to actually make those steps. So that felt good. That's a positive takeaway. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.